if we look at the challenges that I've presented so far, we've tried to kind of group them together to cover everything that we see in the perishable supply chain space. But when you start to dig in a little bit more and you start to isolate the different parties involved, we actually can get much more nuanced with what those challenges are. So when we zoom in on our growers and shippers, it's not enough to just say that we need to capture that data. It's also that we have to take into account all of the unique challenges, that no two products are operationally similar in the way that we need to capture that data and affix those labels. And maybe it's not possible to affix labels. So we need to account for all of that as a specific challenge to that group. Looking at manufacturers, when we look at bag salads, for example, if we are taking lettuce from one grower, we're taking carrots, we're taking all of these different inputs, and then we're generating this bag salad output, it's not enough to just know where that product came from. We need to know how it was combined and when it was combined and on what line. For our distributors, if we look into that a little bit more closely, we need that ability to not only have that record on what we're bringing in, but also knowing what we're selling, so what's going out the door, and having that ability to connect those dots so that we have that end-to-end visibility. Logistics providers, it sounds pretty straightforward, A to B. What could be complex about that? But in reality, we know that there's so many steps along the way, and there's cross-docks, and there's all this information that we need to be able to capture and share about that movement of product. And then when we look to our retailers, product spoilage, having this information about when a product was harvested. Today, we're losing so much product to shrink and to spoilage and to waste. And, we really don't have the ability to be able to see how we should be slotting and managing that inventory. So we need to account for leveraging this traceability data to solve for that as well. And then for our operators, we're talking about hundreds and thousands of ingredients that we need to do this for. So scalability is a huge issue there, and needing this to be a systematized process. And then, of course, at the very end, we have our consumers and that growing interest that we're seeing across the board in people wanting to know where their food came from. So when we look at these challenges and we think about a solution to put in place against these challenges, these are all the things that we need to account for in that ultimate solution. And we need this to be, a number of things. So if we kind of summarize, we need this to be accurate and complete. We can't have disparate data sources. We can't have different ways of managing and capturing this data. It has to be accurate, it has to be complete, and it has to be end to end. So we have to have that visibility, not just the strong foundation of data, but also the connection of that data end to end. The third bullet here on fast and surgically precise, that one jumps out at me because to me, that's something that is often traded off, right? You can't have speed and precision. And so I think that one's super important to make sure that the solution that we're putting in place is not just quick, because that leads to scorched earth, that leads to pulling all of the lettuce from Salinas off the shelves. We need not just the speed, but we also need the precision. And I would add to that even that the compliance, the ability to be agile is super important as well. We can't trade that off either, because as things are changing, as the regulations are changing, as the buyers are mandating new things, we see with the Walmart example, we need to be able to be flexible. So we can't put something in place that's fast and precise, but that can't change as we see the industry moving. And then, of course, at the bottom, we've got our consumers and that want and that need to know not just where a product came from, but what happened to it along the way.
And I like that too, Sarah, because I think it's really, even hearing you just say this now, it's compelling to me, because this really is a list of needs, right? None of these are nice to haves. And that's where to my mind, the challenge ultimately rolls back to with traceability. It's such a big challenge, right? And what we see is the tip, and if you use the iceberg analogy, right, there's even more things kind of lurking below the surface for all of us individually, but none of it's negotiable. We have to do these things.
Yeah, I always think of that. I think it was a project management list. It's like you can have it fast, cheap, and good, but you have to pick two, something like that. And I kind of think about that in this sense, where we can have it fast, cheap, precise, compliant. We can't trade any of those off.